Hello, fellow patriots, truth seekers, and lovers of freedom. I'm Merle Hexam, coming to you from Otter Tail County, rocks and cows country. A couple weeks ago, Kip Christensen had made a video and released it. It was a story. It's called the Staebler story, an untold Otter Tail County story. What it should have been titled was the Staebler story, a story of errors and omissions, because just about everything they said on this video was false. We're going to take a look at this video, and I'm going to insert the truth after each of their lies. Well, not after each of their lies. I don't have that much time. But Otter Tail County is there's been corruption. There's been stealing, lying, cheating for at least the last 3 years, probably more. I'll probably only go into the details of those things that's happened in the last 3 years, since I wasn't personally involved prior to that. Although there were some people who were, I've heard stories, but like I said, I'll only delve into the areas in which I'm personally familiar. So if you're not a truth seeker, if you don't love truth and transparency, you probably won't like this video. But anyway, we'll start their story now.
They follow the endorsement only when it suits them. It's the same 33. We've been dealing with this since 2014. After the primary, they were encouraging write-ins against our Senate primary endorsed candidate, against Michelle Fischbach, and they were to write in Bull's name, and then Jim Schultz, they advised people to write in Warroad's name.
Right out of the gate, the story begins with 3 blatant lies and 1 huge omission. We're 37 seconds into the video, and we have to stop it to correct these 4 lies. She starts out by saying that it's the same 33 we've been dealing with since 2014. Well, the truth is that only 5 of the 33 duly elected delegates who were suspended illegally were involved with the Otter Tail County BPOU back in 2014. So that's a lie. And as a matter of fact, a large majority of those who were suspended got involved as recently as 2022. Another lie that she totes is that we only support the endorsed candidate when it suits us. That's not true either. In fact, if that's not the pot calling the kettle black, I don't know what is, because it's the establishment, the MNGOP establishment group, that will only support a candidate if it suits them. If it's a grassroots candidate, a newcomer, somebody who's challenging an incumbent who happens to win the endorsement, they still support the incumbent, the establishment candidate, over the grassroots newcomer. And they do this because they can control that person. They did this as recently as 2022 with Brett Bussman, with Mark Brashowski, with Eric Mortensen, and others. They do not want incumbents. They do not want incumbents to get defeated because they can control them. Matter of fact, I spoke with Andy Apolowski over the phone in 2022, and in our conversation, he said to me that it's my job to get incumbents reelected. We are not interested in having some David come up against a Goliath. So they are the ones who do not follow the endorsement if it doesn't suit them. We do. One of the examples that they use is in 2022, our Senate candidate, Jordan Rasmusson, who had won the endorsement, did so illegally. But I'll get into the details of that later on when they talk about the 2022 Senate candidate race. The 4th lie was that they said that we were asking people to write in Bull Johnson for the CD7 congressional race, which we did not do, and that we were telling people to write in Doug Wardlow in the spot over Jim Schultz. That was also incorrect. So right off the gate, we start that. There will be a long intermission now because they talk about things that happened earlier on in the Otter Tail County BPOU, which I was not part of, so I will leave that alone, and I will get back into it later on when they start talking about 2022. Thanks.
Why would anybody who has been accustomed to Republican Party values and structure want to unendorse a successful Republican candidate? This is, again, the individual defeated 30-year incumbent Colin Peterson. Why would anybody go against that? She has them. She has them. She is as pro-life as anybody, so pro-gun, pro-life. She stands for all of our values, and she has been one of the most active individuals in the House. She serves on 4 committees. She works her tail off for us. No, she doesn't come out here for meetings because she's in Washington, where we elected her to go and represent us and fight for us. And she's done a marvelous job. Why would anybody want to fight that? Why?
They say that Fischbach, she is pro-life as anybody. She's pro-gun, pro-life. She stands for all of our values. She doesn't stand for my values. As a state senator in 2017, she voted for a healthcare omnibus bill called SF2, which went partially to fund abortions. She chose to vote for that, knowing that that was in there. So no, she should not have signed that. I am pro-life, and that's something that I will not compromise on. I could not support that or her for supporting that. She also, as a U.S. representative in Washington, she votes for continuing resolutions to continue to expand our debt and spend more of our hard-earned tax money. She sends money over to Zelensky and other corrupt foreign leaders to continue these endless wars. So Michelle Fischbach does not represent me nor my values. She might have an R behind her name, but she's not a conservative.
2022, our Senate district endorsed our Senate candidate and our 2 representatives to run.
At our local convention.
And the delegates spoke, and they let their voices be heard as to who they wanted from our Senate district to represent them. Then the individual that did not make the endorsement for the Senate spot chose to go to the primary, which he had the right. That was legal. He had that right. But then he lost again. And he chose to continue to go on and be a write-in, which is not legal.
As a Republican, he was out of the running. But his group of roughly 30 people or so continued to push him to run against our endorsed Senate candidate. Who would do that? As the blind leading the blind, we went through all the legal channels. The endorsement convention, the primary election, and then he came back again, his people, and he came back again to run as a write-in candidate in the general election. Who would do a thing like that? In terms of trying to destroy our Republican Party, those people should be excommunicated, in my opinion.
This group of 33 worked against the endorsed candidates on the whole Republican ticket. After the primary, they were encouraging write-ins against our Senate primary endorsed candidate, against Michelle Fischbach, and they were to write in Bull's name, and then Jim Schultz, they advised people to write in War Road's name. We collected this information.
Here we have another huge omission and a blatant lie. I'll start with a lie first. They said that the 33 worked against the endorsed candidates on the whole Republican ticket. That is a blatant lie. I voted for the Republicans other than one, which was Jordan Rasmusson. And here's the omission that they had, that the 30-something of us chose not to support the endorsed Republican candidate from SD9, Senate district in which we are part of. But they failed to tell us why. There's a reason why. At our caucus in 2022, which transpired on February 1st, people who wanted to be delegates and alternates went and signed up, or in their absence, people could do so for them from their precincts. You had to be from the precinct, not outside that precinct. Well, what Otter Tail County did, the leadership, is after caucus night, they went and they called people and they asked friends and neighbors and relatives to be delegates for Jordan Rasmusson. That's not legal. If you want to be a delegate, you either have somebody do it by proxy, nominate you, or you go yourself. You can't become a delegate by anybody outside of your precinct. Only somebody from your precinct can nominate you, and only on caucus night. Why did they do this? Well, Tori Westrom, a sitting senator, was redistricted into SD9, which was our Senate district. And because Jordan Rasmusson wanted to win that seat, he basically told Tori Westrom, I have all the delegates from Otter Tail County, so you may as well pack your bags and head down the road. So they chased Tori into another Senate district, which he ran for and won. At our county convention, we confronted them with this lying and cheating and stealing and adding of the delegates and alternates, which they removed a couple, and then they shut it down, and then they didn't want to speak it again, and they went and they passed the credentials from that were not correct. A couple days later at our BPOU meeting, some of us went and we asked that they do an independent audit on the delegate list. Either that or even simply show us the delegate list that were turned in on caucus night so we can compare them to the one that they released 3.5 weeks later. But they refused to do so. And from that point on, they stopped having open BPOU meetings for the next 2 years. That no one was allowed other than the executive committee to attend the BPOU meetings. So that is why that we could not support the endorsed candidate, because the endorsement was fraudulent and because the candidate himself was involved. He was part of the executive committee. His wife was the secretary of the executive committee. His best friend was the acting chair of the committee at that time. And his father, his mother, and his mother-in-law were all part of the executive committee, plus all those that were friendly to his candidacy. So we didn't support the endorsed candidate, not because we had a disagreement in ideology. We refused to support the candidate because we could not support corruption and nefarious acts which were done at that time. That is the truth of the matter.
We collected this information and brought it to the 2023 convention, and the people, the delegates from the convention, voted to remove those 33 delegates from the convention. It was not the leadership at all. It was not the executive committee. It was the body of the Republican Party of delegates of Otter Tail County only. The vote was 2-1 to remove those people.
Another lie that they said is they said that the delegates at the 2023 county convention voted to remove the 33 delegates. It was not the leadership at all. It was not the executive committee. It was the body of Republican Party of delegates of the Otter Tail County only. They had nothing to do with it. They had nothing to do with our removal, according to them. Well, that's another blatant lie, because a vote was taken by the BPOU at a meeting by the Executive Committee to suspend a 33. And we all received an email 8 days, not the required 10, but 8 days before the convention. And this is the letter that we all received. Matter of fact, my wife and I received one together. And it said this. It said, Carol and Merle, at its meeting on January 10th, the Otter Tail County Republican Party Leadership Committee agreed to a motion by a vote of 22 for, 2 against, and 2 abstaining to direct the Otter Tail County Republican Party Convention Credentials Committee to suspend seating privileges for any delegate or alternate who supported one or more candidates running against an endorsed Republican primary nominee in the previous general election. You are among those who have been suspended and will not be seated at the convention. Otter Tail County Republican Party, OtterTailGOP.com. This was something that was already done. It said, we have been suspended and we will not be seated. They had already made up their mind in advance. Well, what had happened, they had contacted or were in contact with David Hand, the chair of the MNGOP. And David Hand told them, you have no legal grounds to just kick out delegates from that. So it was his recommendation that they do it through the credentialing committee at the Otter Tail County BPOU convention. Though I visited, several of us visited with David Hand later that summer, and I had asked him, so it's legal for them to remove 33 people at one time, not give them any indication of what they had done wrong, not give them the opportunity to respond, and remove them without allowing them to vote. I asked him, well, how many could you do? Could you do half? Could you remove half the delegates and allow the other half then to suspend that half? Could the total executive committee remove the remainder, say 200, 300 delegates, and then vote to have them removed? He said, but they could, but why would they want to? Well, I don't know why they would want to, but it seems pretty nefarious to do such thing that they had no right to do. There was nothing in the 2021 Constitution, which we were under, that allowed them to remove duly elected precinct delegates for not supporting a candidate.
2024, caucus. Caucus is in Otter Tail County. We had 2 sites for our caucus, Perm and Fergus Falls. Perm caucus. The Perm caucus got started, and all of a sudden there was a motion to elect a new head convener.
While they're describing our failures as Otter Tail County delegates, they're showing in the background a registration form from the 2024 caucus. On the form, it states the duties of the delegates and alternates must support the endorsed candidate. This wording that's on the 2024 caucus registration form is taken directly from the 2023 Constitution that was passed at the convention, which we had been banned from. This is the height of deception. They are saying that we violated a rule that was not part of the Constitution at that time, of our supposed infraction. They had no authority to do what they did. So after they removed us, then they passed a new bylaw, stuck it in the Constitution, said we violated a law after the fact. So that is another lie that's trying to deceive people.
It eventually happened, the new convener. They went through with it. And then, according to the caucus rules, is that votes are supposed to be done by secret ballot. This was not done by secret ballot. People were to raise their hands or to stand, and then somebody ran around counting all the noses. And the convener was replaced. And the individual that came up to be replaced said, I don't need any training. I've had all my training. I know what I'm doing. but the results show she did not know what she was doing. Chaos prevailed. It was mob rule, noise. We had many new people there, new volunteers that wanted to get involved. They were discouraged. Many people say they'll never attend another caucus again.
In the Staebler story, they say that the 2024 caucus prevailed. There was chaos and mob rule. That was not true. It was done in order, at least after the Patriot got the gavel. They claimed that Tammy Berry did not know what she was doing as a convener. That is a blatant lie. They said there was chaos and confusion, and there was, but it was not the fault of Tammy Berry. This chaos and confusion was the doings of the Otter Tail County BPOU Executive Committee, and it was by design. These people wanted to hang on to power in the worst way, and they knew that they would be vastly outnumbered by God-fearing patriots. So they devised and implemented several schemes in order to make sure that the 2024 caucus results would not go forward. One of the things that they did is they reduced the number of convening sites, locations. From 2 years ago, in 2022, they had 5. Prior to that, they had 7 different locations because Otter Tail County is a big county and there's several people who are involved. So they did this to create chaos. Now, they did this so that the Miracles, both Tommy and his son Harry, could control the proceedings of the entire county. See, Tommy Miracle ran as a convener, was appointed as a convener by the BPOU to run the city of Perham. In Fergus Falls, Minnesota, his son Harry was a convener at that one. The second thing they did is there was nominations made on the floor for a permanent convener. These guys were assigned by the BPOU as temporary conveners. But both men initially refused to give up the gavel, refused to open the floor for nominations and a vote for a new convener. When Tommy was challenged on the floor by a lawyer who was in attendance that he was breaking the rules, he then allowed for a vote to go forward and nominations. But Harry, on the other hand, in Fergus Falls, refused to do so, thus violating state statute. 2 days later, Harry Miracle stepped away from the Otter Tail County BPOU. I don't know why, but he did. So the third thing that they did, besides reducing the number of convening sites and appointing their own conveners who wanted to convene the whole caucus and wouldn't allow the floor to be opened up, the third thing they did is they withheld PCRC forms from the precinct packets as to make sure that the precinct chair and secretary could not certify their election results. Now, I was a precinct chair in the city of Perham, and me and the secretary, we did fill out the write-in sheets, and the last column which says who were the delegates, who were the alternates, and who were the guests there. And we signed that. Also, although we did not have the PCRC forms, because they withheld them intentionally so that we could not do so. And the fourth thing that they did is they created a new registration form for the Otter Tail County caucus participants to sign. These forms were different from the ones that the MNGOP had put out. The MNGOP form was good enough for all the other 86 counties to use, but not for Otter Tail County. The Otter Tail County form required the participants to pledge always to support the endorsed candidate, even if a nominee was immoral or corrupt. Now, the Minnesota GOP Constitution does not allow for this to happen. You see, in the Republican Party of Minnesota Constitution, Article 2, membership and dues, Section 3, I'll start with the second paragraph. It says that nothing in this Constitution shall be construed to deny or abridge the rights of any voter to participate in any party caucus, primary, or convention where is entitled by law to participate. Go back up to Section 3. Who's allowed to participate? Membership. The membership of the party shall be composed of all citizens of the state of Minnesota who desire to support the objective of the party. Article 4, the delegation of power. Organization, Section 2. It says the form of enrollment shall be prescribed by the state executive committee and shall be uniform throughout the state. Do we know what uniform means? It means they shall be the same. No qualifications for membership shall be imposed except as provided by this Constitution. Opportunity for enrollment shall be open at all times to all voters who are eligible for membership under Article 2. What you must understand is that the 2024 caucus was intended to fail by their leadership. They did not want it going forward. Were they outnumbered? Well, when we took a vote to replace Tommy Miracle, who was appointed by the Otter Tail County BPOU as a temporary convener, when we took a vote to replace him, the vote was 183 to 39. Let me repeat that, 183 to 39. How badly do you want to hang on to power when you know you're being outnumbered that badly? So they had to create and design chaos in order to hang on to power.
It is probably right that they could remove the head caucus chair, but it's got to be done in the correct manner and statutorial timeline. Also at the caucus, there was physical threats made to different people at PERM.
They say that at the PERM caucus, there were physical threats made to people. Another blatant lie. Now, I know most of the people who are God-fearing patriots who are not violent people, but who only want to see justice, who want to see transparency, who are honest and want to see honesty prevail. Now, if there are actually threats made, they should have clarified the following. Who made the threat? What did they say? Who did they threaten? You see, if that was actually the case, we would have all condemned the action. The patriots and the establishment both would have condemned those actions had that actually happened. But I don't believe that it did. Because these folks have a habit of accusing their opposition of doing the things that they themselves are doing. I've not seen nor heard one threat or act of violence by any of the patriots who are seeking to save our country and our state. So that is a blatant lie that there's threats made. On the other hand, the Staeblers are repeat offenders when it comes to acts of violence against fellow Republicans. There's this incident that they touched on earlier in the video that was very traumatic for Betty, and that was in 2014. She, at a Battle Lake meeting, had pushed an elderly man, a veteran, down, and an ambulance was called, and there were some charges initially made. I don't know what became of it. I don't intend to, but I know it was settled out of court. But she actually had assaulted a man. And then at this year's convention, 2024, there was a man who was videotaping the proceedings of the caucus doings, and John Staebler had walked up to him, walked from his table over to their table, and hit his hand, knocked the phone out of his hand. Now, just 2 weeks ago at the State Central Committee, John Staebler came up to a man, flashed his card, his voting card, in his face and pushed him in the chest. He was then later talked to by the Sergeant of Arms. So these people are calling us violent and saying we're doing threats of violence, which is not true. It's something that they have been doing for a number of years. So don't believe the lies, believe the truth.
This again, this 2024 caucus in Perm was a waste of everyone's time that showed up and decided to take the time to be involved. They follow the endorsement only when it suits them. It's the same 33. We've been dealing with this since 2014.
Important point.
These are not Republicans. They are not Republicans. Going back to 2020, the election year, after the unendorsement of Michelle Fischbach by Otter Tail County. Otter Tail County should have been decertified then. The state should have done that to stop
Insurrection.
the insurrections of what was going on. We needed a breather. We needed to regroup.
They say that these, speaking of us, are not Republicans. They are not Republicans, they reiterate. But the truth of the matter is, it's they who are not Republicans. See, the establishment wing of the Republican Party, who are not actually Republicans, this group does not like the term rhino. Rhino is not some slur or something calling somebody names. It's an identification. It's an adjective of who they are. See, they're Republican in name only. They claim to support the things that we support. Pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, lower taxes, smaller government, less regulations, all those things. Yet when they or their politicians get in office, they don't actually fight for these things. They're actually Democrats posing as Republicans, which is why they're called rhinos. They have these knockdown, drag-out fights with their friends across the aisle. But at the end of the day, the government keeps growing, keeps spending, keeps increasing taxes, keep going up. The wars keep being implemented, and the politicians keep getting wealthier. Democrat politicians don't care about women's rights, and Republican rhinos politicians, they don't care about the unborn baby. They just want to keep issues like this at the forefront so that they can continue to fleece the American citizens behind the scenes. The only reason that these two entities fight one another is to get the gavel and control the purse strings. They want money and they want power. How do you think politicians get to be multimillionaires on a $174,000 salary?